on Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Beis. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Halacha Rabbi Elazar. Okay, we learned in the Mishnah that what was going on over here? If there were two wives, one was an adult and one was a child. If the Yavam lived with the adult wife, the Yavam does Yibam on the widow, the older widow, so then that's a good marriage. And if he then goes and lives with the Ketana, so that's considered nothing. His wife is still the older one. But if he lives first with the Ketana, with the younger one, and then he lives with the older one, then it messes up the marriage. It messes up the marriage that he had with the Ketana. So he ruins it. Pasal as a Ketana. He can't remain married to her. Then Rabbi Elazar says that what he could do is he should we train the Ketana to do miyan, to get out of that original marriage. She should reject her husband, and then he can marry the older one. He can do yibam. So Amar Rav Yehuda Mishmal halacha Rabbi Elazar, the halacha like Rabbi Elazar. V'chein Amar Rabbi Elazar halacha Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says the halacha like Rabbi Elazar. What's going on with it? Well, whenever it says Rabbi Eliezer, then that's Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenes. Whenever it says Rabbi Elazar, that's Rabbi Elazar ben Shemua. Whenever the Gemara says Rabbi Elazar, that's Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas. So Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas says that the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Shemua. Now in our Mishnah we have Rabbi Elazar. In the Mishnah before we had Rabbi Eliezer. And the Gemara Nida says that we don't always paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. Why over here does it say halacha Rabbi Eliezer? So it says, well, because Rabbi Elazar goes like Rabbi Eliezer. So it's actually a different. You have to, in order to learn that Gemara Nida, you have to say that over there it's Rabbi Eliezer and here it's Rabbi Elazar, in order for it to fit. The Gemara says Utzricha. You have to say both of these statements, one from Rabbi Eliezer and one from Rabbi Elazar. That the Allah, you have to get it clear that the Allah is like they're both basically saying the same thing. That we train the Ketana to do miyan. The only thing is the cases are different. Over there were two sisters, and there was a problem. So you just get one of them to do. He was married to the Ketana sister, and the other sister that was now a widow. So now he has a problem because he has to do miyan. How's he going to do miyan? His wife is this Ketana, and it's her sister. He has to do yibam. He can't do yibam the wife. So we say we train her to do miyan, and then he's able to do yibam. Over here, we're saying that the whole thing is a mess. He's trying to do yibam on the younger one and the older one, and then the younger one he lives with. So tzricha, it's necessary to say that Allah is like both. If it would have said Allah is like by the earlier one where they were sisters. Bahach Gamar Shmuel Rabbi Elazar, but there Shmuel says Allah is like Rabbi Eliezer, like Yibam. He didn't do yibam yet. He's not able to do yibam until he gets rid of one of these wives. So we train the Ketana to do miyan, and then he's able to do yibam. It's a big mitzvah yibam. Aval Baha the kaim mitzvah, but over here that he was already married to either the older one or the younger one. He already did the mitzvah. Just give a get to both of them. Okay, v'yashmin and Baha, and if we would only say over here that Allah is like Rabbi Elazar mishum de Gedolah Ramya Kamei, because there is a mitzvah of yibam, aval idach, but in the other case, there's no mitzvah of yibam because he's married to the sister. There's no mitzvah even lechatchila. So we would say that Allah is not like Rabbi Elazar. Why get into the chiyuv? Why do you have to get rid of this wife to make a chiyuv? He's already exempt because he's married to the girl. So tzrichat has to say over there that we try to create the chiyuv by doing the miyan. New Mishnah. Now you had the practicing the curiosity. Okay, Yavam Katan Shaba al Yavam Ketana. A young Yavam. That means a brother of the deceased husband. That's underage. He's probably about 9 years old. Why? Because we're going to have to talk about that. He did bia. He had relations. If he's younger than 9, he can't have relations. He lives with a Yevama Ketana. How old is she? well, she's at least 3 years old, or else the bia is not considered bia, but she's under the age of where she's 12 and has two hairs.
So they're both Katan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, high school.
Oh, what a shidduch. Yeah.
Wait, no, middle schoolers. Oh,
The middle school, yeah, not high school.
Wow.
So,
Got their allowance.
yeah, yigdalu zemzeh, they grow up together. In other words, they stay married, and he can't divorce her because he's a child. He has to wait till he's older. Well, Yevama Gedaila, let's say he's a child, but he lives with an older Yevama, so he's 9, 10, 11. He could even be 12, and she's also 12. But she's considered a Gedaila. He's still considered a child. You follow? Because she reaches maturity at age 12, him at 13, so they could be the same age. Tigadlenu, let her raise him. That means they stay married. Let's say the Yevama says, within 30 days of the Yibam, she says, Leinavalti, he didn't live with me yet. What type of husband is this? So Kaifan, I say, Shiyach Litzla. We force him to do chalitza. In other words, the fellow is saying, I can just give a get. I don't have to go through the chalitza problem, the chalitza whole ceremony, because I already married her. I brought her into the house. I married her. And now I'll just give her the divorce document. It's a lot easier than taking off his shoe and having her spit and the whole ceremony in front of everyone. Just do a get. But she's saying that there was no yibam yet because he never lived with her. Well, it's b'tayich shleishim yom. It's only been 30 days. So we'll probably believe her. La'achar shleishim yom, after 30 days, mevakshim imenu shiach litzla. We can't force him to do chalitza because we believe him that he says he lived with her. And she's saying that he hasn't lived with her. We don't believe that. It's been so long that they've been living together. We don't believe that they didn't have relations. But let's see, he admits. He says, you're right. He didn't have relations. We force him to do chalitza, which means the entire ceremony. Let's say she says, I forbid my brother-in-law from having any benefit from me. So then the husband passed away. Now it's time for Yibam or Chalitza. We say that she didn't have that in mind, not to do Yibam. She didn't know that this was that's what was going on, and that we say that it's a real neder. She wasn't just trying to get out of the mitzvah. We say that's a real neder, and we force him to do chalitza. But if the husband had already passed away, and then she does that, then she makes a neder like that, then mevakshim imenu shiach litzla. So we only ask him to do chalitza. We can't force him because she's causing this on her own. We can't just have her manipulate the whole situation here. She just takes vows and does this. So we can't force him to do this just because of her vow. If her intention was to ruin the yibam, then even if the husband's still alive, if this was clearly her intention, even originally, then we still can't force him to do chalitza. We can only ask him that he should do chalitza. Now the Gemara says, let's say that the Mishnah is not like Reb Meir. It's not the Tanya, because it was taught in a brisa. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Our Mishnah says that these two children, these two middle schoolers, did yibam, right? Reb Meir says that they can't do yibam, so the Mishnah is not Reb Meir. Where it says afilu tamer Reb Meir, no, it could be Reb Meir. Reb Meir didn't say one to the other. Reb Meir said a katan and a katana. You know what that meant? The katan can't do yibam on an adult. In the katana, can't do yibam on an adult. adult man, and the katan on the adult on the adult. But one to another, a katan to a ketana, then yes, the chad minaya be a disura over there. It's a problematic. It's a problematic yibum because the child is too young, he or her.
Chalitza or yibum, a katana.
Yeah, right. Aval katan, abal katana. But if the child comes on a other child and child girl, the tabayot kiyadadin, but they're both of the same status. Layamar, Rameir never said that, so the Mishnah could be Rameir. Baktani bal yavama gedayla tegadleno. It doesn't fit. You only read the first part of the Mishnah. Look a little further. The katan lived with a yavama gedayla. Our example was that they were both age 12. She's a gedayla and he's a katan. But whatever the case is, it says that he raised him. She raises him. That means that it is a good yibum. Over here, it happened already. Rabbi was talking about the chatchila. Here it's b'diavad. But the kadlenu kamar. That means they stayed together. The kol biyobiyadi surahu. If they're staying together, she's raising him. When they live together, every time it's going to be another lechatchila, another lechatchila. Lechatchila, you're not allowed to. You should divorce. She should divorce him. She can't divorce him. He should divorce her as soon as he's able to. Ela machvarta mastis like Reb Meir. It must mean that our Mishnah is not Reb Meir. You know, Gemara says, "Karikan lahakim shame, lahakim lachav shame." It says that you have to establish a name for the brother, the deceased brother. V'hailav bar hachihu. This is a child. You can't have children. Why can't he have children? He's already 9 years old. Amar Abaya, Amar Kra, Yevama, Yavayala Kaldahu. Any sort of Yevama, any sort of Yavam, her Yavam, whatever he is, and as however old he is still considered Yavam. Even though in this exact instance, right now, he cannot establish the name, but it doesn't matter. Rava says, you have to say that this is the din, that a child can do yibam. Why? Is there such a thing that it starts off prohibited and later on it becomes permissible? This is really talking about a case where there was a relative at the time of the death of the husband. One of the wives was related to the brother, but then afterwards that relationship broke off. Maybe he divorced the sister or something. So we say that later on you can never. It's too late. We say it's too late because you need to be able to do yibam immediately at the time of death. If that's the case, then how is it possible that when a child grows up, he's going to be able to do yibam? If at the time of the death of the brother, you're not able to do yibam right then, later on it doesn't get fixed. It must be that a child is always allowed to do yibam. Because if it's not allowed now, but allowed later, we have a rule that doesn't work. So it must be that he's always allowed to do yibam. That's Rava's claim to Abaya, that Abaya quotes a pasuk to teach me this. Yavama kaldahu, or Yavam kaldahu, any sort of Yavam. I have a proof that without that pasuk. The Gemara says, let it say that he's never allowed to do Yibam because he started off at the time of death. He was a child. Even when he gets older, he can't do Yibam. The Gemara says, well, that's not true because Amar Kra, Keshvachim Yachtav, if the brothers are there alive in the world together, Afilu Ben Yaima, Afilu Ben Yamechad, the Gemara tells us that even if that child is 1 day old, as long as he was alive, if he's born later, then he can't do Yibam. But if he was alive even for 1 day while the first brother, the deceased brother, was alive, so then it's already a mitzvah of Yibam. You see, even if he's a child, you can't say that he's always going to be prohibited. So Rav has a point by saying that I don't need the pasuk of Yavam Kaldahu, because I would have a rule that would teach me that if it's going to be eligible for Yibam, he's eligible already from the beginning. Yevamos Shamar b'teich shleishim yayim. If the Yevamos says within 30 days that this fellow, this brother, my husband's brother, didn't have relations with me yet. So if it's within the 30 days, we believe her and we require a chalitza from him.
90-day wait period.
Yeah, there's a 90-day wait between the death and the yibum,
So
but
that's
it was 30 days since the yibum.
What's that?
30 days from the yibum, where he says, "Okay, I'm doing yibum. Come to my house. Come move in." And she says, "He moved in, or I moved into his house, but I mean, they never consummated the marriage."
So this is up to 30 after the 90.
All right, up to 30 after the 90. So Mantana dad tlasim yoy mukimina shanafshay. Who's the Tana that holds that up to 30 days a person could restrain himself and possibly didn't have relations? Who holds that? It's Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yochanan says it's Rabbi Meir. Well, before we said the Mishnah wasn't Rabbi Meir, now we say it is Rabbi Meir. It's a different part of the Mishnah. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Tanya specific kol shleishim yaim. The next Masechta in Ksubas, there's a discussion. There's a big topic over there. Is if the because the marriage was a year apart from the betrothal, so if he would claim that he doesn't find that she's a basula, a virgin, so then if he wants to divorce, he doesn't even have to pay her the amount that it would be required. So for the ksuba. So how long does he have to make that claim? So Reb Meir says you have 30 days to make that claim. 30 days from the time of marriage, because he can claim, well, our first relations was just day 29. What were they waiting for? I don't know. But day 29 is their first relations. And okay, here I am. I showed up, right? It's the return policy. It's up to 30 days. So Rabbi Yossi says, nope. Nistera la'alter. Once the door closes, you don't have any more time. We believe that the relations took place right then. You see, the concern over here is that he really knew that she was a virgin. She just did something else that he doesn't like, and now he's trying to get rid of her. He's making a claim that she's not a virgin. And all of a sudden, this fellow shows up 25 days later saying that she's not a virgin. We don't believe him. Rabbi Yossi is saying, once the door closed, we say that they had relations right then. Why is he coming 25 days later? They probably had some other fight. The toothpaste cap they didn't put on. Okay, so Adkan, so the Gemara says it can't be Rabbi Yossi because Rabbi Yossi would say you don't have 30 days to make a claim like this. So according to Rabbi Yossi, you see, what are we dealing with here? Where she's saying, he didn't live with me yet. I want a full chalitza. He's saying, I'm not doing a full chalitza. I lived with her. How long does he have to claim that? 30 days. Who says that you have 30 days to say that he didn't live with her? That's Reb Meir. Rabbi Yossi would say you don't have, you have just when the door closes. That's it. Loinistera, if the door didn't close, that means they were never secluded. There were always people around. So aflacher kamashanim, then even after many years. Okay. Rabba Marfil Tamer Rabbi Yossi. Rabba says it could even be Rabbi Yossi. Adkan like Rabbi Yossi. When does Rabbi Yossi say that once the door closes, we say that they had relations? That's only because he was betrothed to her for a year before, and now the door closed. They're married. We say that for sure they had relations. But she was married to his brother. To say that they had relations automatically just because the door closed, not necessarily is that so. If it was his wife and then the door closed, then for sure they had relations. But over here, she was married to his brother, Mivzaz Buzzes Minay. It's probably he is ashamed from her. So it could be that even according to Rabbi Yossi, they didn't have relations right away, and it could be that the Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi, that they have 30 days for that. We said over here that if she claims within 30 days that he didn't have relations, so we force him to do chalitza. In other words, he's trying to get rid of her. We force him to do chalitza. But he says that he had relations, but it's within 30 days, and we believe her within 30 days that they didn't have relations. Gemara asks, why do we force him to do the full ceremony of chalitza? Maybe force him to do yibam, and then give the get. That's all he wanted anyway, was to give a get. We're saying, no, you need the whole chalitza. Force him to do chalitza. Force him to do yibam. So Amarav, the get she has already. She's claiming that the get is not satisfactory because they never consummated that marriage. She wants the full ceremony, chalitza. And the get is already there.
So you can't give a get unless
he can't do yibam after he gave a get. So there's only one option now, is to do chalitza. He can't remarry. Once he decides he's not marrying her, then he can't marry her. Now, usually we say that's with chalitza, but rabbinic law also, by rabbinic law, the get. You can go back.
Have any relations afterwards?
Yeah, right. That's on a regular marriage, but here, he's marrying his brother's widow. That's a different story. Either he does the yibam or he doesn't. Here, the get can't do yibam after the get.
Right.
Meisvei, the Gemara has a question. Yevamos says he never consummated the marriage. We don't care what he says. Whether he says he agrees or whether he says he disagrees. We force him to do chalitza. Same like our Mishnah. It's within 30 days. Force him to do chalitza. Why don't we say to do yibam? Well, we'll have to answer like our Mishnah, like we answered the Mishnah, Rav, that she already gave a get. Right? That's what we'll have to answer for this. But if it's after 30 days, then we can't say that we don't believe him because there's 30 days and he says that he had relations and it's probably did. It's after 30 days. Assume that he's right. He Imeris Nivalti. Let's say it's the opposite.
So the Gemara assumes that if a man has refused to have relations with a woman, he will within 30 days.
Right.
So she doesn't have to prove anything.
Right.
The Gemara just assumes.
Well, yeah. If one of them claims that they had relations and it's after 30 days, then we assume that they're right. And if one of them claims it's within 30 days and they didn't, then we assume that, or at least we have to suspect to that. Let's say it's after 30 days. So then, so we just ask him to do the chalitza because we already suspect that maybe he's right. Let's say she says that we had relations. He says, I never had relations with him. And it's after 30 days. So we believe her. Because it's 30 days. 30 days, we assume that they had relations. Let's say he says, I had relations with her. She says, no, we never had relations. Even though he then changes his mind. And he says, I never had relations, and it's after 30 days. Tzarech get v'chalitza. You need a get and chalitza. It doesn't say kaifin isai, because over here it's still, at one point he said ba'alti. We don't force him, but you have to do get and chalitza. Now, notice that the term was that we require a get. If you want to answer the way that we said before on our Mishnah, that he already had given a get, so what are you telling me stories about? You have to give a get. Why did we say that we force him to do chalitza? We could have said we force him to do yibam. We said, well, because he gave the get already. So now at the end of this brisa, we say that we force that he has to give a get. What do you mean? I thought he gave a get. That was the reason why you didn't do that. That's why you didn't say that he has to do yibum, because the get was there already. Now you're saying he has to give a get. Something's wrong with the case. Doesn't mean that he has to give a get. It means tzarech get v'chalitza. That means even though the get was given, he still requires chalitza. Back to the way we explained the Mishnah, that the get was given already. Rav Ashi says, Hasam get l'zikasi, get l'biyasi. Two types of gittin. What we were talking about before was a get for the zika. He had given a get that the rabbis don't require. But because he gave a get, he can't do yibum anymore. It's a rabbinic get. Over here we're saying, because he said Baalti, that he had relations, even though later he changed his mind, now he needs to give a get, not because of the Zika. The Zika is the attachment between a Yavam and a Yevama. Not because of just this attachment, that because the brother's marriage ended with the death, so there's a Zika and he gave a get that he wasn't really required, so now we require Chalitza, he can't do Yibam. Here it's a second type of get. Because he had relations with her, at least according to him, we require another get. That's what it means, tzarech get. But we won't do yibam because there was a get that came before this, which was a get for the zika. Two different types of get.
It's not really proper get.
It wasn't a proper get, right?
Else to get-
To mess it up. Hanush, Shneim, Maidim. There was a case of two people that admitted that they did not have relations. Maidim, they even though they moved in together, but they admitted that they didn't have. They never consummated the yibam marriage. Roommates, right? Dasala kami de Rava, come in front of Rava. Amla Rava chalutzala. He didn't have relations, so just do chalitza v'shar letigra. In I guess it means end this conflict. Sale? What is tigra? Conflict or sale? We had this once before. Charlotte Tigra. Resolve her case. It means a conflict. Challenge. So Amalu Rav Shravya Larava, Rav Shravya says, Tani Tzricha get v'chalitza. We say in our by us it says tzarich get in chalitza. Well, that's because he also claimed that he had relations and then he changed his mind. Anyway, whatever the case is, Amalei Tanya. Rava says if that's the case, then that's the case. If the Brisa says so, then that's going to be the halacha. Oh, Rashi adds in the point. Umi kara amar baalti, that there was a statement that he made once that he had relations with her, and that's why, according to that, not that's Rashi, then what's going on? Yeah, I see a difference right away. But okay. You ever heard of Hain? Hain sounds like a fortune. Hain Rab. It sounds like a treasure. Anyway, that's Rab Nachman's son's name. Hain, the son of Rab Nachman, he asked Rab Nachman, Sarasamahu. What's going on? What's going to be the din with the tzara? If both of them claim they never consummated the marriage. If both the Yavam and the Yavama claim they never consummated the marriage. Well, actually, no. The Yavam said that he had relations. The Yavama says that she didn't. So we said we ask her to do chalitza. We ask him to do chalitza. What about the tzara? Can the tzara go ahead, rely on the husband that said he had relations with her and let her get married because she's already exempt? So the Gemara says, because we force him or we ask him Tiyasa Tzara, the Tzaraga is in trouble. He claimed that he had relations. So that's enough to permit the Tzara to marry out, to be free to the market. So why do we do the Chalitza? There's a rule called Shavya Nafshei Chaticha D'Isura. Shavya Nafshei, she considers for herself that she's forbidden. She's being strict on herself. It's sort of, it's a discussion how this works. One opinion is it works like a neder.
Like a vow?
Like a vow. She says that I'm not permitted. Like he gave me a
Like
get, but I'm not permitted.
Like a nazir almost does.
Yeah.
They take it upon
I have a get from him, and I'm not permitted to anybody to it.
Yeah, because
She
I
did
really need chalitza
Ah,
because he never did yibum. He's claiming he did yibum. So she's making herself forbidden. She's creating problems for herself. So we can't just say, oh, just ignore what you're saying. Can't say that. We have to say, well, okay, we'll have to if you say so, we'll have to resolve the problem that you're creating.
So what? She doesn't go to the mikvah and all this.
She
Sometimes people.
She
just
needs
don't want
chalitza.
to do this. All right.
because of her claim that she never consummated the marriage. Hanederes ana, someone that takes a vow. Tanan Hasam was taught, Berisheno, Yem Shalish Nashim Yaitzes, Benitlis Ksuba. Usually, if a woman needs to get divorced, there's something that they did wrong, there's no ksuba. But there's certain instances, 3 instances, where she gets the ksuba. How does that work? Let's say she was married to a kohen, and she tells her husband, the kohen, I was raped. I didn't do anything wrong. It was my fault, but I can't live with you anymore. Because a kohen is forbidden. Hashemayim beini leveinach. She says, I don't have anyone to attest to this, but besides for heaven, but my husband never lives with me, never has relations. Second case. Well, 1 second. These are cases where she gets divorced and she doesn't, and she also takes a ksuba. It's his fault. Netulani min hayudim. Let's say she says relations bothers me, and so therefore, let's see what the term is. Netula. I guess it means like I'm taken away from any ever living with a Jew. I'm withdrawn from the Jews. Okay. So what happens now is she wants out of the marriage for whatever reason, and she gets a ksuba. So that's what they said originally. However, Chazru Laimar, they then switched and they said, this could be a whole scheme. Really, she has her eyes on some other man. And she's trying to get out of the marriage, get a ksuba. And so what does she say? She says, I was raped. So rather, if she says I was raped, prove it. We don't believe you. What is that? Oh. If we say prove it, we don't believe it. There's some ulterior motive, right? She says he never has relations with her. We ask him to have relations with her. We don't just say, okay, we believe her. She says, I'm withdrawn from all Jews. She takes a vow. So we say, okay, if she ever gets divorced, she cannot live with anyone else. But he annuls her vow. Husband's allowed to annul her vow, whatever's relevant to him. So he says, okay, for me, that vow is annulled, and he can have relations with her. And for everyone else, no. Okay, Ibailahu. Gemara's the question. If she takes that vow, and the husband annuls it, and he's annulling it for himself, but what about for the Yavam when he passes away? Did that vow mean that if the husband passes away, she can't have relations with anyone else? Or does it mean just while the husband's alive and they get divorced, she's not going to go to anyone else? Did she really have in mind the Yavam in that vow? So mi maska daita de mispail of anaflakam Yavam malai. Was that part of the vow? Did that enter her mind? Rav Amar Yavam Ein Kabal. Rav says the Yavam is not like the husband. The husband needed to annul his part of the vow. The Yavam was never part of this. And she's permitted to the Yavam even without any heter of the vow. It's the vow never included the Yavam. Shmuel Yavam Mario Kabal. Shmuel says no. Yavam is like the husband. Amar Abaya Kavaseder Rav Mistabra. Abaya says Rav makes sense. The Tanan Hanidersanam Yavama B'chai Ba'ila Kofnei says Shiachlitz. We made a difference between if the Yavama takes a vow while her husband is alive, that she's not going to have benefit from the Yavam. Does she mean that she's never going to have relations with him, or does it mean just that she's not going to do Yibam, or does it just mean she's not going to have benefit? Well, if we say that she has in mind already back then that she's not going to have relations with him because she's expecting that the husband's going to die, so then the law should be different, because after the death of the husband, then we say that we ask him not to do Yibam. We say that she can't really control the mitzvah of Yibam. But if she has that intention from the beginning, so then why do we say kaifenai say sheyachleitz, that we force him to have to do chalitza and not to do Yibam? B'misa demaska daita, that she had the intention originally, mevakshimi boile, then the law should be different. It should be similar to when she takes that vow after the death. If she has the same intention while he's alive, it must be that, like Rav says, that she never intended anything about the Yavam while the husband was alive. Mar says, not necessarily. Is that a good proof? Why over there don't we think that she had intention for the to affect the Yibam because she had children? To say that she's thinking that her husband's going to die and the children are going to die, and that's what she meant, that's for sure. She didn't mean that. She didn't think that's way too much. Avalein labanim mais. What are you coming to tell me? If she didn't have children, then she would be thinking that the husband's going to die and that she's trying to get out of the mitzvah of Yibam. Mevakshin. And in that case, we would only suggest that he does chalitza. Adatani, instead of saying instead of saying that if the husband is if she had intention while the husband was alive to get out of the mitzvah of Yibam, then we don't force the husband to do chalitza. We just ask him to do chalitza. Listening bedida. 1 second. We should divide this up into two different cases. When do we say that we force the husband to do chalitza? That's b'shiesh labanim. That's when she had children. We forced the brother to.
She can't do Yibum if she has to.
And then the children died before the husband died. Avalein labanim avakshim. We should have made a difference. But if there are no children, then we only suggest to the husband, to the husband's brother, to do chalitza. I say karav. Rather, it must be that Rav was correct, that while the husband's alive, she never has any intention about if she's going to marry the Yavam or not, and her vows are nothing to do with living with the Yavam. Okay.
I was always wondering
Well,
about the practical
This is the same.
reasons behind doing like Yibum or Chalitza. Like in